Buenos dias, buenas tardes, y buenas noches, bonjour, bonsoir, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater case, July 3rd. And lots of bits and pieces I want to go through. Let's start off with a comment from one person called Thunder Wren, referring to the documentary. And Thunder Wren said, no mention in the documentary, no mention of Lucy being told by the Spanish authorities not to go up there to the Masca Mountains. But Thunder Wren says it's a possibility she was ordered by someone not to go. And this is something that I wanted to stress is very much a distinct possibility in this case. So at this point, let us just come out and say it, that Luggy may well have got 50% of his statement exactly right. Because Luggy, after 2 years of humming and hawing, keeping this a secret, eventually, I would say because of our insistence that we get the truth, eventually felt enough pressure to reveal the truth. Except it's a Luggy truth, so it's not entirely true. Because El Slugtardo eventually came out as we approached year 3 of the case and said Lucy was told not to go up to where that pin location was, where Jay's last location was, and that it was the Guardia Civil that told her not to go up there. So I agree with Thunder, and I think there's a good possibility that Sluggy has told us 50% of the truth, that Lucy was told not to go up there. And beyond that, it was also true, I think, that the other friends, Brandon and Josh, were told not to go up there. I think Sluggy may well have been bang on the money with that. But I think Thunder Wren might be bang on the money with the idea that it wasn't the Guardia Civil that said don't go up there. I've got to say, in my experience in this part of the world, the usual routine, if you're reporting some incident and you're not there, is they say, are you on the way there now? Yeah. Are you going there? Are you going to assist us when we get there? I've never heard of this. You sit tight. We'll handle it. We don't need anything from you. It's just not the real world. Not in my experience. But anyway, that was El Slugtardo's truth, the big truth bomb from El Slugtardo. The Guardia Civil told Miss Lucy, sit tight. But I think Thunder Wren's got it. I think Thunder Wren has got it. Lucy was told sit tight, but from whoever didn't want Lucy, Jay, Josh, Brandon up there for obvious reasons. But it wasn't the Guardia Civil that said that. So yeah, Thunder Wren, I agree with that. It does raise the interesting question, who is involved here telling Lucy to do this, do that? I mean, that is the part of this saga, I think, that where we're guessing, we really are guessing, we have no idea. There's some mad Moroccans that are controlling Lucy's whole activity. Is it Roman and his gang that are on the import side of the substances? I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is it is very, very likely that whoever is managing this, and let's assume for the sake of argument the Jay Slater case is an example of some operation that went terribly, terribly wrong. Let's just assume he wasn't supposed to die, you know. I would assume that these ruthless narco dealers are the kind of people that when they say don't do this, you don't do it. Yeah. So if Lucy's and Brad and Josh, Brandon, they're all told you ain't going up there. Don't go up there. Believe me, no one's going to go up there. It doesn't matter how close a friend Jay was. If these narco gangsters say you don't go up there, no one's going to go up there. I think we should assume it is that ruthless a world, of course. And I'll get back to that point because Haley Comet has made another longish video, which, like I say, we are not the best of friends, but I would recommend you go listen to it. And I'll make a few comments of myself because it is good that Haley Comet, who had a lot of first-hand information, it seemed, early doors, is going back over it. So it is worth listening to her. But I'll make a few comments on her latest video. Before getting into that, I want to go back to the assertion that was made because big news after 4 days of being absent from the commenting world. El Slugtardo has come out with something today. And I was assuming that over the last 4 days he was silent because he was suffering the embarrassment, the severe embarrassment, one must add, of having to remove a whole lengthy post on something I'd said and some evidence I'd put out there because, of course, he got it totally, totally wrong. If you missed this 4 days ago, Luggy was trying to lecture the world on how it was impossible, absolutely impossible, for me to have had a charge on my bank card from a place called Aeroporto, which is Lisbon Airport. Oh, absolutely impossible, because Luggy had done his language research, aided by Google Translate, and whatever language you put in, there was no such word, aeroporto. Okay, well, I had to point out that not only was that bank statement, a section of which I showed, absolutely genuine, totally authentic, I pointed out that, well, yes, the word does exist, and it is the word for airport in both Italian and Portuguese. And then I submitted more evidence that it was actually from that charge was from Lisbon Airport. Now, I do have more evidence I can put out there that shows it's a genuine charge. Do I need to do that? I don't think so, because I think the very fact that Luggy had to remove that whole post out of shame, yeah, proves that I was right. Now, if El Slugtardo, I was wrong in anything I said, why don't you repost the whole spiel that you took down? Just repost it if you're right. I think the very fact you removed it and then went 4 days silent with your tail between your legs, your little fairy legs, shows that you got it all totally wrong. Not for the first time in your life, I hasten to add, Ivy. So yeah, El Slugtardo, embarrassed, ashamed, got it totally wrong, had to remove his post. 4 days went by, and then today he's put up an AI image of me still claiming that I was sacked when I was teaching for Little English down there in Gibraltar. Now, this whole thing re-emerged when, almost by accident, I was going through my banking records and for the record, I will say now, everyone should hear this because at some point, as Janie and El Slugtardo fall into the trap that I set here, as they fall into it, this kind of information will come out. So for the record, my last class with Little English was April the 3rd. I look back on my calendar, April the 3rd of this year, 2026. The last payment I received from Little English was February of 2026. That's why I showed my bank record. Now, why did I do all this? It's because over and over again, repeatedly, everyone out there, all you guys, have been fed this misinformation or disinformation. I guess it's misinformation. Could be either. Misinformation because I don't think the likes of Janie 180 and El Slugtardo and the rest of the Axton group, they don't know the truth. So they're kind of assuming, guessing, but getting it wrong. So what I did was when I got back to February, oh yeah, that's the last time I was paid by Little English, February 2026. And that's when it occurred to me. I was like, all we hear over and over again is I got fired in 2025. Yeah, fired by Little English. He's a sacked, failed teacher. So I just put out the question, that's all. Because I know the truth. But I like to have a bit of fun putting out questions and seeing the wrong answers come in from the slowest students. I know it's cruel. You shouldn't do that, teacher. But I mean, speaking from the heart here, there are funny moments when the slowest kids in the class give you the totally wrong answer and think they must be 100% right and teacher is wrong. We do have our moments of fun in this business. But yeah, I went back and I was like, so hang on a second. February 2026 was a payment date that I got something from Little English. So how could it be that Little English are paying me February 2026 for a job from which I got sacked in 2025, according to the accident group narrative? And that was it. That was it. It was a challenging question. I said, if you guys are so sure I got sacked in 2025, why is it someone is paying me from Little English in February of 2026? Little did I know that Janie 180, El Slugtardo, and many, many others, it seems, would go into apoplexy and total panic at being challenged on this, because apparently that's what happened. One of my former bosses from Little English told me that they got inundated. Now, that might be an exaggeration, but maybe it wasn't. Inundated with messages questioning this. Well, questioning what exactly? I'm not 100% sure because I wasn't sending the messages. But you can imagine it happened one time. Accident Group flooded the poor guys at Little English with 101 accusations, allegations against myself that were all false. And apparently last week, same thing happened a second time. Inundated with whatever messages. I guess hostile, possibly threatening. It is the Accident Group. Um, but the point here is, after contacting my former bosses, it became apparent that no one at all, has come forward to say that I was ever sacked. Remember, the allegation, it's not more than an allegation. It is asserted, it is stated as a truth by the Accident Group. They have so little on me, they clutch on to this so-called truth as much as they can, that he's a failed teacher, he was sacked. So, after contacting my bosses, still there is nothing out there to say I was ever sacked. And you would have thought that would have been the result of all this. But strangely enough, El Slugtardo cannot prove and cannot produce anything that says that. My bosses have not said it because it's not true. I know it's not true. And yet somehow Janie's out there thinking it's true. I would have thought, Janie, the very fact that El Slugtardo has to produce an AI image of me in a sack in order to prove I was sacked tells you, in order to prove I was sacked, tells you everything you need to know. Janie's got nothing to say I was sacked. Ivor's got nothing to say I was sacked. My bosses have never said I was sacked because, quite simply, you got it wrong. Dearden, Janie, all of you, I was never sacked. Now, if you really want to, Accident Group, go back and ask the Little English bosses to say it. Just say it. You can say, you know, if you got sacked, tell us. Let's see what they say. Because they know, I know, and the Accident Group know, I never got sacked. But as for no, I've never claimed that I'm working for Little English right now. Like I said, I checked back at my records. April the 3rd was my last class. Now, the reason I hesitated after April the 3rd to say I was still waiting for working for Little English is because the one student I had that used to have an English class for 1 hour on Friday afternoon, that one student would come and go. So even after April 3rd, every Friday, I was like, I wonder if I won't give his name. I wonder if that student will, send me an email to say I want an hour of English class today. Now, I haven't heard from that student since April the 3rd. So, I guess because I'm not looking for any more work with Little English for sure, and I haven't been for a while, I guess we can call April the 3rd as my last working day. However, the bosses at Little English wouldn't know that because since February I haven't billed them for the very few classes I've had. So this is a strange one. The actual bosses of Little English don't know the last Little English class I gave. Well, now I'm telling them via this video that it was April the 3rd. But I'm not looking to be paid for the very few classes I did from February. It doesn't amount to very much. But that's the truth. There we go. If you can disprove me, please do it. So anyway, yes, that's the Little English story right there. And I do have some emails that I will put out to discredit and to prove anyone wrong if they want to challenge me on that. There's more I can. This is why Janie's facing a trap here. The more she goes down the line of I'm 100% sure he got sacked, the more evidence I'll put out there that just showed her that she's wrong. Um, I want to go back to Hayley Comet's video. This is important stuff. It really is. She made a very good point. She said regarding the attack on Tom Hilton, why were there no murder charges? I mean, it doesn't surprise me in the UK these days that someone like Tom Hilton can be ambushed, lured, if you like, to that Rishton Mill meeting place, and then a bunch of hoodlums with, what was it, golf clubs, knives, machetes, attack him, chase him through the woods, get him on the road. And what it appears to me, it does appear to me, tried to kill him. I think I read reports that there were voices saying we're going to kill him. To me, I think Haley Comet's got this right. That should have been a murder charge because it is planned. There is a plot here. There is a conspiracy. You don't just take a golf club and a machete randomly to an old Rishton Mill meeting place. So it does seem to me that this was orchestrated. It was planned. The idea was it not, to take the life of Tom Hilton? So Comet's right on that. How could it be that this was just, what was it, violent disorder? Um, this does sound like murder, attempted murder to me. Um, it surely was planned. It does sound like a entrapment there. Yeah. Tom Hilton was told that a younger female that wanted to meet him was there. Yeah. I despair at the Western judicial system in general, but in the UK, when that happens, and this ends up being community service, a community order, it does seem wrong. When Comet puts it that way, Jay and the rest of them should have been behind bars, surely. Um, Comet's also sure that Brandon is Johnny Vegas. I'm going to back her up on one part of this. I don't know if Brandon is Johnny Vegas. It could be. The reason I think that Ayub isn't Johnny Vegas and Rocky isn't Johnny Vegas is I don't see why they would be called Johnny Vegas. The comedian, the comic actor, I've forgotten his first name. His last name's Pennington. That's what makes me think Chris Pennington could be the Johnny Vegas. Um, but yeah, it doesn't fit Ayub. It doesn't fit Rocky. Yeah, I know Ayub said in the inquest he is Johnny Vegas, but he's going to say anything just to gloss over anything. He's not going to say the truth in the inquest. It's Ayub. So Ayub saying, "Yeah, I'm Johnny Vegas" doesn't mean anything. Um, and Comet pointed out that Ayub was known as Whispers, and we know on his TikTok account or whatever account it is, he's Quack Quack. So I mean, how many nicknames can you have? I would have thought Ayub, Quack Quack, Whispers is enough. I don't think we've ever heard anyone refer to Ayub as Johnny Vegas. So I agree with Comet on that. Very unlikely to be Ayub. I don't see why it would be Rocky. She thinks it's Brandon. I think it could be Brandon, could be Chris Pennington, could be totally no one at all. This could be the ghost that appears in the story and doesn't really exist. Someone that was talking to Mark Williams Thomas on the strip mentioned that one of the mystery men was called Johnny Vegas and liked to drink his Hennessy. But um, I wouldn't go further than that. I wouldn't go further than that. But yeah, it's good to know that Comet is pretty darn sure it's Brandon. Um, Before I forget, if you go to the community post, a very eagle-eyed follower sent me the photo of Fairy Legs himself, Fairy Legs from Fishguard, flying high above the Tenerife vista there. And yeah, we do see white socks and what look like, to me, I call them like black boating shoes, those kind of soft trainers. Looks very, very similar to the same white socks and black boating shoes that we get a glimpse of from the cameraman who is filming Chris Pennington in 2024. Yeah, in 2024, the year that Sluggy was not in Tenerife, looks like the same clobber he was working 2025 flying high fairy-like over Tenerife. Looks like the same outfit he was wearing in 2024 when he was the cameraman, to me. So I put that post out there. If anyone wants to disagree with it, go ahead and disagree with it. But in the post, it's referring to the video, and the link is in that post, where you see the roadworks by the Airbnb at 3 minute 48. So that shows it's 2024. At 4 minute 16 in that video, you have Chris saying, "All right, Luggy." So to me, if he's saying "all right, Luggy," then it's probably Luggy's the other side of the camera there. At 1 minute 31, he's saying, "Yeah, Luggy." And Chris has got the same outfit on, so I'm guessing it's all 2024. As always, we never get an answer from the accident group. How is it that there is so much evidence out there that Luggy was in Tenerife in 2024, and he can't counter it? He can't say anything that disproves it. He just goes silent. This is the accident group tactic. Can't answer it, we'll go silent and pretend it's never happened. Now, here is the crunch one I want to get to. Because in Comet's video, she's talking about this very contradictory situation, which I think I can make sense out of. I'll go through it step by step. This very contradictory situation where we have 3 calls between the 3 friends, Brad, Brandon, and Lucy, and Jay. And the contradiction is call 1, Brad calling Jay. Apparently, Jay is wandering up in the mountains there, and Brad says he could hear him go over a small slope, a small dip. Yeah, stones, you know? Yeah, stones. I heard stones. Okay. And the message there from Brad, this is 8:30 in the morning, there's no threat at all. Jay's fine, having a good laugh. Everything at 8:30 is A-okay. Call 2 comes in. We assume it's Brandon. Same thing. Brandon says, almost the same thing as Brad, which makes me think, they kind of learnt the same script. And Brandon reiterates, yeah, everything was fine. Everything was fine. Oh shit, saw your location, Brandon said. But, Jay was fine. So again, we've got reinforcement there. In the Brad call, no threat to Jay at all. With the call to Brandon, there's no threat to Jay at all. I think we can see here the intention is twofold. Brad and Brandon, and then Lucy, but Brad and Brandon first of all, are trying to show that not only were they geographically separated from Jay, yeah, they're talking on a video call, and Brandon is down in Adeje or Arona somewhere. Brad, he's down there in Los Cristianos, and Jay's up there. So yeah, we can't have been involved in this, is the message. And not only that, Brad and Brandon saying we can't be involved in any way. And not only that, no one was involved because Jay felt no threat. So Brad and Brandon have distanced themselves geographically. We're down here, he's up there. And in fact, no one else is involved in this. It's only Jay's silly mistakes that are creating this problem. He said, he's fine. There's no threat. Okay. Lucy's call. Now, this apparently is where Jay calls Lucy. Lucy goes through the same pantomime here. Lucy is, down, apparently, grandmother's flat or pension playa, wherever she is, but the other side of the island, down south. So she's geographically separated herself. She now has contact with Jay. And now something's changed. And this is what Comet points out. Within 10 minutes of speaking to Brandon, Jay's gone from I'm fine, isn't this a laugh and a giggle, I'm lost in the mountains, to, in Lucy's words, Jay says, I'm going to die. And Comet threw out there what could have happened in that short time. I'm fine, ha ha, I'm in the mountains, I'm lost, I don't know where I am. 10 minutes later, talks to Lucy, and Lucy reports to the Spanish authorities, Jay said, I'm going to die. What could explain that 180? We don't know. No one will ever know. But it is odd that family, Zach, Warren, Debbie, they're not curious. No one in the accident group curious. Spanish authorities not curious. The media not curious. It's just our little band are like, well, how do you go from 10 minutes being fine, no threats, to I'm going to die? Doesn't make sense to normal people. But this is the problem that Jay's friends, let's call them the gang, they find themselves in. Because they're trying to do 2 things simultaneously. They're trying to show that Jay was never threatened by anyone, yeah, that his death was accidental. But they're also trying to show that both things are true at the same time, in that there is no one threatening Jay, he's fine. There's no one threatening Jay, he's fine. But if no one is threatening Jay and he's fine, how is he going to end up dead at the bottom of a ravine? At some point between the moment of Jay saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and a month later, oh my God, he must have fallen off that ridge and died. In order to do that, Lucy has got to come up with not that he was fine, but that he felt he was going to die. This Lucy has to be the bridge from Jay's not threatened, everything's okay, no one's involved here. The only thing that could go wrong is an accident. Lucy's the bridge between that and 1 month later, oh, we found his dead body. Lucy does a pretty good job, but it doesn't make sense. But she did her best, yeah? He's lost, no water, phone's run out, and boom, yeah, he's wandering down a ravine. He's going to die, isn't he, by accident? It's a bit more complicated than that, because I'm sure Lucy would have loved the opportunity to hint to the police that Jay had died by accident, and it was an accident that could be explained. I'm thinking, for example, an accident caused by another human. If only Lucy could have, hinted at, some manic driver was coming down the windy road too fast and they hit Jay, and that's how Jay died. If Lucy or any of them could have latched on to that, that would have been wonderful. Wonderful in the sense that, we've got a perfect explanation. Here's, poor Jay dead in the road. He's got a great big crack in the back of his head and some car must have hit him. But that involves another human being. The problem here is they've got to somehow bridge the gap between Jay wandering around somewhere remote, feeling fine, to a month later he's dead at the bottom of a ravine. Lucy's that bridge. Lucy couldn't say, oh, he told me he was fine. Otherwise, how to explain he's dead at the bottom of the ravine? So Lucy tried her best, but she was in a tough position with that. And hence we have this, oh yeah, he told me he's going to die. And later, oh, and he didn't have any water. Oh, and then he didn't have any phone battery. Oh, and then he was bitten by a cactus. Oh, and in a ditch. Lucy has to keep piling on and piling on and piling on all the woes that suddenly accompany Jay in order for it to make any kind of sense that he ends up dead. She did her best, but some of us not convinced. Now, quick mind experiment here. I want to imagine the scenario of Jay simply vanishing, disappearing, not missing person, but disappearing completely. I want you to imagine if after Jay left Papagayos, Jay really had just vanished, meaning his friends got no messages from him at all. There was none of this, if you're not there this time, if I don't find you this time, I'll be effing furious. Yeah, and where are you now? Where are you now? Oh, I'm on a mission. Yeah. Imagine none of that happened. Imagine just for the sake of argument, we got Jay, he leaves Papagayos. He's not answering any texts, no calls, he's not communicating. He really has just vanished. No one has a clue what happened to Jay. In that scenario, if Jay had simply vanished, and this does happen to some people, you just hear they just disappear, never to be seen again. In that scenario, that would have been fine in a way for the gang, because they could then participate in the whole searching. Yeah, they could all throw up their hands and say, from the moment he was kicked out of Papagayos, we know nothing. Nothing. And so we will start searching this area, no one would think that he went up to massacre. We will help the police and we'll tell them whatever we can, and we'll stay around and we'll do whatever we can, and so will our families. We'll all come together and we will make the Papagayos area our base of operations, and we are going to ask 101 people with all the CCTV what happened to Jay. That's what would have happened. I think you'll agree. If it were no crime involved, no narco stuff involved, just a regular vanishing. Problem here is, what if? That's a what if scenario. That would have played out very well if Jay had simply vanished. In a sense, it would have been a happy ending for the gang. Oh, well, he vanished. We searched as best we can. We gave all the information. Police did their best. Dogs sniffing around. Just can't find him. He's vanished. Phew. That worked out okay. But here's a different scenario. What if you would like to say that Jay just vanished, but you know he didn't, and you know there's a dead body, a dead Jay, somewhere. I don't know where. Just imagine the gang know this, that he left Papagayos, and they know Jay got done in, got unalived, so we can't go through the whole vanishing routine. Why? Because there's a body out there. Yeah? What happens if we say, oh, we don't know, and police find a body? This changes everything, doesn't it? What do you do with the body? Because I mean, the gang aren't they're teenagers. Well, Ayub isn't, but they're not so stupid. If they know there is a dead body out there, the chances are, with the dogs, with the CCTV, with all the people around that area, the body's going to be found. And then, can't be a missing person case, they found the body. This is a tough one. What to do if you know there's a dead body out there? Well, I think what you do is actually what happened. You might be told, if you're one of the gang, that, yeah, Jay is no more, but you're going to have to turn this into a missing person case. Vanished isn't going to work because we've got a body. Obviously we can't leave it in a fridge at the back of Papagayos forever. We've got to have this as a missing person case where either people are looking a long, long way away from here and they're not going to find him, or worst case scenario, they're looking a long, long way from here, they're not going to find him unless we suddenly have to produce that body and it's found, but it's found in the middle of nowhere and no one's going to know how he got there. We could even construct a story that kind of explains, if we have a bit of luck, kind of explains how he could have got from outside Papagayos via Masca down the bottom of that ravine. All I'm saying for this thought experiment is, had Jay literally vanished without trace, logically all his friends would have had no problem whatsoever being involved in the search, because assuming there's no crime involved, they would have participated to the full. I'm suggesting the reason, and it's evidence, I'm suggesting the reason and the evidence that we have that there must be a serious crime involved here is because those three friends acted specifically as if they had been instructed not to go to where Jay's last known location was, and not to participate in any kind of search, investigation, whatsoever, unless prompted. Now, you can only do so much with that. Mark Williams Thomas turns up on the scene. They can't refuse to talk to him. I mean, Brandon refused to talk to the whole world. He eventually talked to Mark Williams Thomas, didn't he? Or a voice that sounds like Brandon did. So they handled it as best they could. But I think, in retrospect, the whole creation of the story of the disappearance of Jay Slater had to be made because they had a body on their hands. if there was no body on their hands and Jay had truly disappeared, then there's nothing to tell. He's disappeared. We will search anywhere, everywhere. This has gone on way too long, so I will leave it there. I've got more to say on it, but thought experiment for the day: if Jay had truly vanished, we wouldn't have had any of this. The only scenario that explains everything we've heard, yeah, no threat to Jay, no threat to Jay, oh my God, he's going to die, is that they've got a body on their hands. They've got to come up with a way of convincing us that there's no threat to Jay, but if you do find a body, it could only be because he made a series of mistakes in a remote place. Because he couldn't have died this way back at Papagayo's, could he? All right. Hasta mañana. Yes, there will be time tomorrow to do something, say something. Yeah, hasta mañana. Hasta la vista. Adios.